It is time to install the air conditioning units inside this van. As some of you guys know, I spend most of my time in Florida. Summer has definitely arrived. It's starting to get very warm here in South Florida, so I want to get this thing installed. This was a top priority for me inside the van. This is the Velit 2000U underbench 12-volt air conditioning unit. They make this in 24-volt and 48-volt as well, but my system is a 12-volt battery system in there. I decided to go with an underbench unit instead of a rooftop unit because this is a very small van. It's the 118-inch wheelbase ProMaster, and I don't have a lot of roof space, so I wanted to make sure that I could get 500 watts of solar on the roof along with my vent fan, and then I didn't really have space for an air conditioning unit up there. What I want to do in this video is not only install this thing, I want to obviously get it installed and try to share that process with you guys, but I also want to show if it actually works. When I was doing my research trying to figure out a cooling setup inside the van, I found that a lot of folks would make videos and they would show these awesome installation videos and then they would say, oh, it's blowing cold, but that was about it. I want to know, can this thing actually cool the inside of a tin box, especially here in Florida, one of the hottest places in the United States during the summertime. I do have a link in the description below to Velit's website, so you guys can check them out if you're interested. There is also a promo code as well that you can use to get a discount on some of their products. They have air conditioning units as well as heaters and a number of other camping products as well, so would definitely recommend checking them out. I will say that this is definitely not the cheapest possible solution for air conditioning inside this van. It's cheaper than some undermount AC units, or actually probably most of them, and even the rooftop units from Velit are also more affordable than some other rooftop units that are out there. But that being said, like, I could theoretically just stick a classic window unit out the back of this thing, but the problem is that would look pretty ugly, kind of like it did with my truck camper that I had previously, and I also found that those window units are extremely loud. I'm hoping that this thing is a little bit quieter, a little bit more efficient, and that it actually works. Like I said, I'm a little concerned because all the videos out there about this unit don't really show real life data and real life experience with it, so I'm going to share that with you guys in this video as well as get it installed. Let's get started with that. So basically, comes with everything that you need inside the kit, which is really nice. I've got a bunch of ducts so that I can run, vents out into various spots. I think I can do two different spots. I'm going to try to do that with probably through my closet space that I built in the last video. And then I'm also, going to install these guys here. They go through the floor. There's one for intake, one for exhaust, and then there's just 12-volt cables, and it just connects directly to the battery. It has an inline fuse built in. The biggest thing is going to be figuring out where I'm going to position the unit underneath the bed inside the van. I have to cut 2 holes or just one large hole in the floor, and it has to fit between the frame rails because I don't want to cut through those, obviously. So there's really not a lot of spaces where I can actually cut this floor. Because this is a smaller van, I don't have big gaps between these frame rails. What's nice is Velit does provide cardboard cutout templates, so I'll be able to get those under here and really try to figure out what the heck I'm doing. I'm gonna be sore after today. Ow. This is definitely the biggest downside of an underbench unit like this, is that you lose a ton of valuable storage space. So I'm trying to minimize the damage as much as I can, but because it's such a small van, like I said, there's not really a lot of space for me to vent out the 2 big vents. So the issue that I'm trying to work through here is that I have a frame rail that basically runs right along the wheel well out to maybe about here or so. It's hard to tell exactly, but just about in this area. And then there's another one that's going to have to go between the two hoses, so the intake and the exhaust. Fortunately though, these hoses for the intake and the exhaust are pretty flexible, and there's quite a bit of space. I know that they're meant so that you can actually send them out the side as well. Obviously I don't want to do that in this van just because I want it to be somewhat stealthy. I don't want to have extra vents running through the side. I'd much rather send it through the floor. But what I'm realizing is if I build it up a little bit, then I can even theoretically run this exhaust and intake hoses underneath it a little bit, so then I can get around those frame rails that are causing these problems, and then I can kind of position this exactly how I want it in the van. If I lift it up, I'm going to be able to vent these hoses out above the battery system into the closet, and then have them come out on either side of the closet to cool the bed and then to cool my desk area. subfloor now. No going back now. Alright, so I got my hole. A little cardboard template, just make sure it's the same way that I had it underneath. It looks like it is. I'm just going to measure it to make sure that it's even. Take the pen, do a little traceroo around here. Just wanted to get some of this Rust-Oleum paint on the edges that I cut, just to make sure that they don't rust into the future. I ran out of paintbrushes though, so I just had to use this piece of foam. I just don't trust the self-tappers that are securing this thing underneath, just going into the sheet metal alone. One of them didn't really go in all the way, so I wanted to run straight to Home Depot and get these guys. Unfortunately, the screws that came with Velit's kit were not the right size because my floor is a little bit thicker than I guess what they were expecting, so picked up basically the same exact thing, just a little bit longer, and this should work out. Get this thing secured before I start driving away. One thing that is important to do is to make sure that the vents are venting out in opposite directions. For me, it's maybe not as important because I have this 4 or 5 inch gap for the frame rail, so it's got a little bit of space. But if they are right next to each other, you want one to be pointing out one way where it says down, and then the other one, the down, wants to be the opposite direction, so that you're not sucking in your exhaust air and just trying to cool your exhaust. So the next step is figuring out exactly how I'm going to position this thing and make sure that I have enough space for my stuff. So the goal is to have a suspended shelf come down so that I can fit a surfboard on there, and then I got half a surfboard here, the other half is on top of the bed. But the idea is that I'm just going to lift the air conditioning unit up and build a cabinet or like a little shelf underneath. And then I'm probably going to leave it open from the front so that I can access this space from the living space inside the van. So I'll be able to maybe use it for clothes, I think, or maybe something like that, things that I need to access on a day-to-day basis. And then the real goal with lifting it like this is so that the ducts can clear the battery system on the right there and then run into the closet. And then I also want to leave that space open so that you can actually vent air in there as well. You need to leave that space in front of the air conditioning unit open. So that's the idea. Lift it up, makes better use of the storage space underneath, but also allows the air conditioner to operate more efficiently. So this is the shelf, and then there's that face plate that I put on just to divide the garage area from the living space in front. I do need to drill one more hole in the floor though. So these two holes are done. This is for the intake and the exhaust, but there's also a drain hose. This thing will essentially act as a dehumidifier. So I need to drill a hole through the floor on this side so that I can just run that out, and then I'll seal it up with some silicone. And that should be it for the holes in the floor. Then it'll be time to actually hook it up to the batteries and see if it works. Time to test it out for the first time. It's wired in. Let's see if it works. It is definitely working. It's pretty awesome. This thing is so much quieter than that old window unit that I had in the truck camper. It's blowing nice and cold. I have it set at 22 degrees Celsius right now. I haven't figured out how to change it to Fahrenheit, but whatever that is in Fahrenheit, it's definitely cold. I mean, I think this is gonna work. I'm gonna run these two ducts. One's gonna go up and out towards the bed area, and then the other one is gonna come out towards the desk, and that's basically where I'm gonna be spending all of my time while I'm inside this van, unless I'm driving. So I think that should work out. That exhaust is blowing. You can feel it. You can hear the intake working on the other side, and I just saw a bunch of water come out of the drain hose, so seems to all be working well. So that's basically it, at least in terms of the install. Still have a few things that I gotta do, obviously. Gotta get all my ducks in a row in this closet and organize these, try to figure out how I'm gonna get them so they're not like in the way, try to secure them up against the walls. And then the other thing that I'll have to do is get the wall that I built mounted out of 1/2-inch plywood. That's gonna divide the garage space from the living space. So I mean, I have that done, I just have to screw it in and get it set up, but I don't wanna do that until I finish messing around with everything underneath the bed. So I gotta run some wires under there, gotta build a shelf for my surfboards, all sorts of stuff. Alright, so it's been like over a month since I started filming this video. I've kind of just been very slowly adding to the inside of the camper. I got some lights in here, did my electrical panel, a couple little outlets, just little things here and there. I made a door for the closet that I'm going to try to mount this evening. There's kind of a crazy thunderstorm coming, so maybe I won't get to that, but just wanted to kind of check in with you guys and let you all know how the air conditioning unit is actually working. So right now it is 104 degrees inside this camper. The sun's starting to go in behind the clouds, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the air conditioner on and we're just going to do a test. I'm just going to sit in here. So this is basically what I've been doing for the past few weeks. Coming in here, doing little projects like hanging these string lights or whatever it may be, and that's given me a really good opportunity to close everything up and just test the air conditioning unit. Tested it out at night, been in here late into the evening, just seeing how it's working, figuring out how much power it's using. Now I've done a few things to try to improve efficiency as much as I possibly can. I got a cover, an insulated cover for the Max Air fan. I also got window covers for the front two windows, insulated window covers, so that helps to kind of keep it cooler up there. I know I mentioned doing that in a recent video. Ended up pulling the trigger and going with that. I did a cover as well for the door panel. I know there's not technically a window there, but where the window would be, I had some leftover Thinsulate and some leftover fabric and rare earth magnets, and I was able to put something together to put up against there. That has made a tremendous difference as well. So all of that, and then testing it out for the past few weeks and really getting a feel for it. Does this air conditioner work? Does it work to cool the space? The answer is definitely yes, but within reason. You have to have reasonable expectations. It's been running for probably about 20 or 30 minutes at this point. It's gone from 104 degrees down to 85 degrees Fahrenheit in here, and that's about as low as it's gonna go. Obviously right now we're being helped because we got a thunderstorm, there's not sun beating on here, but in the days when it's been hot as heck, the sun is out just blaring on this fan, no shade, nothing like that, just directly in sunlight, it'll get up to about 108. I've been able to cool it down to about the high 80s in here, ambient temperature. Now, I'm sure that doesn't sound very good. You're like, who wants to sit inside a van that's 85 degrees, 88 degrees, 90 degrees? But the reality is that it's working really well to dehumidify the space. You can look underneath and you just see water pouring out. So you get that relative humidity down 45%, 40%, even 35%. So it makes it nice and dry and cool in here. And then the other thing is, I'm always sitting in front of where the duct is. So right now I'm sitting here, I'm actually getting a little cold. I had to turn it up a second ago because I was getting a little too cold. The idea is I'm going to be sitting where these ducts are vented out. That's the whole reason I designed it this way and did it this way. The bed area is going to be nice and cool. The desk area is going to be nice and cool. This unit is not going to turn the inside of your metal box into a refrigerator. It's just not going to happen. But if you're just expecting to be able to cool a couple of nice spots in the van, you're 100% going to be able to do that, even in the hottest places that you can imagine. So that is good news for me. There are tremendous benefits to this unit versus, say, if I were to cut a hole in the back and stick a window unit. I've been trying to do some comparison and think about how I can kind of share that comparison with you guys. My personal experience is that I've only ever had the truck camper and this van that have AC in them. So the truck camper one, you're not really comparing apples to apples when you're trying to compare it to a van. The van is probably twice the size. It's also just a tin box that acts like a greenhouse, whereas the truck camper was literally built out of insulation. Like the walls were made out of insulation. And that window unit is very different. Like that thing was probably a little bit more powerful. It can cool a small room, for example, whereas this thing maybe doesn't quite have the same cooling capacity. It's just a different application. We're comparing two different things. The downsides of that window unit, while it was cheaper, it was also extremely loud. Like I've said, it would wake you up in the middle of the night sometimes. And then I couldn't even run it at night if I was trying to stealth camp, parked on the side of the road somewhere. I mean, if I were to run that thing, it might wake the people up in their houses, the houses that I was parked in front of. So it just really didn't work for that sort of situation. It was also just ugly and not stealthy at all. Whereas this may very well be the most stealthy application for an air conditioning unit that you can get inside a van. There are a few other undermount systems out there. This one is relatively affordable as compared to some of the other ones, and it's pretty quiet. Like, you're outside, you can kind of hear the fan going. Like, you know, you'll notice it if you're looking for it, but it, you know, you're not really gonna notice it if you're not looking for it. Like, it just sounds like a fan running. It sounds like anything else. If you have street noise, cars going by and stuff, it's going to be really hard to pick it out. It really is an awesome option for a stealth camper like this. A small van, I think that is where this sort of a unit really shines. It's also very efficient. That's another thing I want to touch on here before closing out this video. I'm pulling about 500 or so watts during the middle of the day when it's hot as heck and the sun is just beating on this van. So that's pretty good. And right now it's probably a little bit less. Right now I'm pulling like 2, maybe 300 watts. Now I've put the temperature up because it's actually gotten a little bit too cold in here at this point, which is a good sign. Now keep in mind, it's 7 o'clock at night now. Thunderstorm has come through. That being said, once you get to that point, so for example, running this thing at night, you're only going to pull maybe 200-300 watts all night long. My battery system will have no problem running this thing all night without an issue and keeping it nice and comfortable inside this little van. So that's something to consider as well. You have to have reasonable expectations with something like this. Obviously, it is not the cheapest option out there, so I understand it's not for everybody. A window unit or something like that sticking out of the back is probably a more economical way to try to survive if you're really on a budget and you're just trying to get by here in Florida or somewhere similar that's very, very hot, Texas, whatever it may be in the South. But if you're willing to spend the extra money and splurge on something like this, I do think for a small van that it is going to be a viable solution. I think being able to sit in front of this duct or lay down, like I've said a couple of times here, if you just position them in the right spots, you're going to be able to cool those spots, and then at night you're going to have no issue cooling the entire space. If it's a huge van, maybe consider some other options, but for a small space like this, I think it's going to work, and I can't wait to keep you guys posted. Obviously, I'm going to need to move in here to really put this thing to the test and really understand how it works on a day-to-day basis, and I'm getting really close to that point, guys. I cannot wait to finish everything up. I'm basically done in here. It's just a matter of time before I'm going to be moving my stuff in and hitting the road and sharing that experience with you guys. Hopefully in the next video here. I'm looking forward to finally doing that. It's been a long road building out this van. I've really enjoyed it, but I'm really excited to get out there and share some of those adventures with you guys. Huge thank you again to Velit for working with me on this video and making this all possible. I do have a link in the description below to Velit's website if you guys are interested in checking out the underbench unit, the 2000U, or their rooftop units, or any of the other products that they have. Would definitely recommend checking them out. Thank you guys so much for watching and for following along. I'll talk to you all again soon.